Hello everyone, I'm Jane and welcome to the definitive Janeslinger guide to the shack. I chose to record this video because I think that the shack is one of the most important things to learn for a new Deathslinger, but it can also be useful for survivor who actually can find the cowboy in one of their games. Usually the shack is considered one of the strongest loops of the game, but when a good Deathslinger actually walks into it, it can instantly become a sort of death trap. I'm here to teach you how to take advantage of the holes or how to not get surprised by this kind of shots if you are playing as a survivor. Let's start with the basic shack. This was the only one shack in the game till the release of the Deathslinger. The developers are starting to introduce new models of shack that actually change the Slinger playstyle in some maps. This shack is probably still the most important one in the game, and during mid-chapter 17.5 or patch 4.3.0 is still present in the following realms: Coldwind, Autohaven, Crotus Penn, Backwater Swamp, Red Forest, and Ormond. The easiest shot and the first that as a new Deathslinger you should try in your games is the Closed Window one. This is actually still useful, but a lot of survivors are starting to play around it. Once you get confident with the closed window shot, you can start to experiment with other holes. Some of these can be a bit situational, but in my opinion these are also the most fun to have in a real game. Other ones can look situational, but trust me, if you get good at these shots can actually be game changers. As I explained, the closed window shot is really famous now, everyone knows that the Slinger can do it, so survivors are starting to play around this. But the other cracks are really hard to predict, so start to master this if you can. Another real good shot is the one behind the locker, but be careful on making the ball attack the wall, because otherwise you'll impact with the locker hitboxes. Coming back to the closed window wall, there is a really tiny crack in the corner closest to the pallet door. You can take advantage of these when you are at the opposite door and they run along the wall, or when they go behind the corner after going out from the pallet door. That's a really good and dangerous spot, because some survivors still camp it to see where the killer is during a chase. In the open window side there are 3 really good spots between the pallet door and the window itself. One of these, a really tiny hole, is immediately close to the window. Another one is really low and situated at the corner of the shack, while the last narrow and long crack is exactly in the middle of this. Playing with diamond ears help you a lot to manage these shots, but it's not mandatory. Also, these all are not great only when they vault the window from the inside to the outside and run to the right, but also when they try to camp the shack pallet inside the building. A last important thing. Vaulting the shack pallet while the Slinger is looking at the survivor from the window is not safe, and the killer can even land a direct hit. Just pay attention to the little piece of wood at the corner of the shack that can block you while you are getting closer to the survivor, and then you can lunge to get the hit. One of the most common situations in a game when you play the Slinger is a survivor inside the shack, the pallet shack down, and you at the window. I'm trying to show you some of the most common scenarios when this happens, and how you can play around this. As I said before, a lot of them try to camp the pallet from the inside, but the 2 cracks close to the window actually allow you to snipe them and reel them to the window itself. When the stairs of the basement are inside the shack, they usually try to camp this because they know you can't reel them to the window, but you can try some plays. One of the most tricky ones is reeling them to the basement and then vaulting and getting them before they can vault again. This is really tricky, I don't suggest to go for this, there are easier things you can actually do. I already shown you that if they try to vault the pallet and they'll try it, you can easily play around it, but be careful to the little piece of wood. And then the most effective thing is usually just vaulting the window. As you can see here, I could get even a normal hit, but when they camp the stairs, they usually try 2 things. Or going behind the shack, and you can use the numerous cracks I showed you before, close to the closet window or the closet window itself. Or they try to go behind the other wall, and here you can use the little hole behind the locker to reel them to the window. So, as a slinger, my suggestion is to stay with the rifle on till the last second before vaulting, so you can surprise them and you can try to get advantage of this kind of plays. For survivors, I suggest you to not camp the stairs in that way, especially in this kind of shack, and try to just leave the shack and get in the distance. The second kind of shack is the semi-closed shack. I called these two kind of shacks in this way, and I included both of these in the same category because these are really similar. The bottom shack only has one shooting opportunity through the walls, and it's the closed window in the back of the shack. The MacMillan one is really similar, the only difference is that there is another closed window really close to the open window. These are the worst shacks for Slinger at the moment. As I said before, the closed window shots are the most common ones, and a lot of Slingers already go for these. This means also that these shots are kinda expected. It's also really easy for survivors to play around these, and if they know what you want to do, you have to just give up and play the shack normally. The Saloon shack is obviously the shack of the Dead Out Saloon map. This is a really atypical shack, and I'm explaining you why. The first reason is that, yes, it's full of holes you can shoot through, but these are also a bit situational in a certain sense. Also, it's kinda weird, but the only two holes that actually work in the back of the shack are the two closer to the door, and only if you shoot in the lower side of this. There are two holes close to the breakable wall, and this makes me think if maybe not breaking the wall is actually better for a slinger, so you can actually make the survivors willing to loop around the shack, and you can take advantage of this. Maybe the most useful hole of this shack is the one at the corner of the pallet door, for a few reasons. You can use it or during a chase or to counter people who are camping the shack pallet from the inside, or after that they vault the window and run to the right, you can land a shot like in the basic shack tile. The Yamaoka shack is the shack of the Yamaoka Estate realm. It's present in the Sanctum of Wrath and the Family Residence maps. This is a really fun and challenging map for the most experienced slingers. There are some really tiny holes that can be used to get a huge advantage in a chase and that are really hard to work around, even for the most experienced survivors. There are two really good holes in the wall between the pallet shack and the window. It's a really tiny one, it's hard to predict it for a survivor, but it's nothing impossible for an experienced slinger. There are two really fun and tricky shots you can land close to the closet windows. The holes are really tiny, but if you are in the right position, close to the door, you can actually have a nice shot opportunity there. I tried the same shot while being at the opposite side of the shack, so while I was at the pallet shack, but you know, it's really hard to get the shot. You need the right angle, and even if you land it, you are not able to reel. Important note, for some weird reasons the closet window doesn't work, it's like it's blocked, while the two tiny holes actually yes, so if you have to try some spicy play, go for this kind of shots. A really good new and original spot is the one between the two lockers. You can use it from the inside to the outside if they try to run behind that side of the shack. You can use it from the outside to the outside if you see them running behind that side and you are at the height of the window, or from the outside to the inside. Even if they vault, you are able to land a direct hit. It's really good. That's all for the shack guide updated to the 4.3.0 patch of Dead by Daylight. Of course, we already know that they are going to change something, probably I expect something about the Yamaoka closed window shack. We know that they are going to release new maps, we know that they are going to update other realms, so probably we'll have new shacks in the game, and I'm ready to work on new, shorter videos only dedicated to the new shacks. I hope you appreciated the contents of today. If you are interested in new contents about Dead by Daylight or other kind of gaming contents, you can follow me on YouTube or on Twitch, where I stream actively Dead by Daylight as well, and you can join our community on Discord. Thank you so much for dedicating me your time. I hope it was useful for you. I'll see you next time, Jane.